Welcome to the Data Masterclass podcast, where data leaders share their unique stories. In this episode today, we talked with Gaurave Patole, who is Principal Consultant, Data Governance, and Quality Specialist at Thoughtworks. We will chat about how defining data quality ROI is all about the why and who is helping data leaders to succeed. Let's welcome your host, Alexei Plotnikovs.
All right. Good afternoon. Good morning. So, the friends of Data Masterclass and all our big audience. Today, we have a very special guest. And I'm really excited because we're going to talk about the things which kind of everybody is talking, but we will talk about that in a interesting and unusual direction. And I'm super looking forward. So, Gaurav, I will let you introduce yourself. I just wanted to tell before we go into this that, of course, you are well known for a data audience. And, I think many people are big fan of you and also big fan of your recent book. We will touch on that later. But I feel that we have this opportunity to really go deep today and discuss quality, right? And where,
Yes.
you have a phenomenal expertise. And it's a hot topic, it's a hot topic, for years. And now it's, I think, getting even more hotter because of something in technology. So let's just start.
Yeah. Thanks, Alec, for this opportunity. I'm so glad to be here. Yes, I'll quickly introduce myself. My name is Gaurav Patole. I am working as a principal data strategist at Thoughtworks, based out of the Amsterdam office. Um I am originally from India. I've been traveling a lot to Europe, UK, and now since the last 18 months, I am based out of Amsterdam. Have been in the data consulting industry for last 10, 12 years, primarily working on the areas of data governance, data quality, overall data strategy management. Was fortunate to work with a lot of clients across industry domains, understand their challenges, their cultures, how people perceive governance and quality, and that has made me a little bit wiser today, I can say. So yeah, so that's me.
Wonderful. So the first question, from the role which you have, as a principal consultant, seeing multiple companies, doing something with data today, right? And some
hmm
of them more successful than the others. What what are those key differentiators? Like if we look on maybe top three things which makes a company successful with data and AI initiatives, and the company which may be struggling at the time when you joining in as well as the professional consultant. So what are those things which makes companies most successful today with data?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I try to simplify things a bit. If you look at in general, this is also kind of much talked in the industry. There is a template which we call as people, process, and technology, and I added one more, which is the education, and some people call it as data literacy as well. So there are these four layers or pillars, on which you can have a very good understanding on the overall maturity of any organization, and that maturity doesn't have any relation with how big is the company, or how much revenues they are earning, or how small it is. It doesn't matter. I've seen companies who are multi-billion dollars, but they are still struggling with basic challenges, and I've seen young startups full-fledged, working very effectively with all the data foundations. So I think some of the differences come into these four pillars. People related, if you start with, there is still confusion going around who should be owning what when it comes to data and AI, and then who should be doing it, whether
Mm,
what's the role of the business side of folks, what's the role of the IT side of folks. There is now this entire CDO or CD AO, this is Chief Data and Analytics Officer team. What should they do? And then all of these three teams come in a tussle, and then they are confused, like who should be doing what, how should we really organize ourselves. There is challenges on the processes also, but okay, in processes part there are good consultants, there are the standard books, which give you standard processing patterns and templates. You have to do data quality like ABC, like metadata like this and that. Okay, that's there. But that is what I have observed, that process wise companies have a good understanding because it has been there for a while. And then comes the technology part. It has been a splurge of vendors coming into this market, and you know this much better than me. In the last few years I have seen, like, these vendors going at least 10x times. Earlier it used to be a few vendors in this space, but since the Gen AI boom started, there are vendors all over the place. But many organizations are still in the belief that, let me start with some tool. They see some vendor presentations at some conferences, and they get wowed by all the beautiful demos and the sales speeches and nice lunches, and they kind of adopt go for it or buy for it, and then they realize, oh no, but this is not visible in our organization or not scalable in our organization. It does not fit with our overall architecture that we have. It doesn't fit with the skills that our people have within our organization. It's not easy to adopt and so on. And those are challenges on the technology. And the last part, is but not the least, is the education part. I purposely don't call it as the literacy part, but I call it as the education part, that all of this knowledge exists within an organizations. We are doing so many things on data, we are talking so many possibilities with AI coming up and so much. But does our organization or our employees really understand the value that we are trying to generate out of it? Or is it only because it's cool, or it makes us look cool within our peers, or
Yeah.
makes, maybe saves a couple of hours in our work? Is it really that efficient? Can it be trusted? That is another side. But from an education perspective, how are we making sure that our employees understand the value of the things that we are trying to achieve with AI, with data? What outcomes are we trying to achieve? What challenges are we trying to resolve, and so on? So more or less, this is in various combinations or volumes, you will see sprinkled across different organizations these challenges which I mentioned.
Love the start. Thank you for creating that kind of foundational four perspectives. I want to deep dive into them. I want to really imagine how regular people, regular organization approaches. And the first one which I wanted to pick up, I wanted to pick up the people, but I want to address kind of an elephant in the room a bit. So this technology aspect, right? And what you say that the people see the tools, right? And then they think the tools will help them. And, when I took myself back from current data knowledge, and I would imagine myself purely as a business leader, I'm trying to fix the data. The data, it's a lot of data. It's maybe, in different databases, in different formats. And here come the tools. And they say, look, we can auto fix it, or we can, maybe augment it, or we can, use the AI to find the correlations, so we can also do a measurement. And then we can create maybe a little bit of different business roles, which helps you to kind of see the data. I don't see anything wrong with this, right? So like,
Yeah.
why not, right? It's at the end, it's a physical asset which sits in the database, which needs to be improved. And there are a lot of tools which seems like doing the job. So what's wrong?
Yeah, and that's a good question. I was thinking about it actually yesterday. I was attending one of the vendors demo, and they showed, this marketplace, and how your data can be easily explored within that tool. You can find your data products, you can find your data addresses, you can find all the definitions, and it works superbly. And I am like, did you try this with some organizations? What has been the adoption rate? And he says, yeah, adoption is always a challenge. But I say, your tool is so good, so visually interfaced, but why is adoption the challenge? Oh, no, because they don't have the right roles and responsibilities. The steward doesn't do his or her job well. And because of, I said, Yeah, so that's where I think the fundamental problem lies. You can buy the fanciest of tools, the most automated tool in available in the technology world, but unless and until your own people understand, a, why you using it, what's the value that you are trying to achieve it, second, how should they use it. Basically, you can't give them a 2-hour webinar and from the next morning ask them to use that tool. That doesn't work like that. And third, you have to communicate all of these things in a language which they understand. That's also the fundamental message which I
Mm.
live with, and I also have in my book also I always say that all of this data quality or data governance is not a technical problem, it's a communication problem. Unless and until whatever we are trying to do, we do not communicate with the audiences in a language which they understand, they work day in and day out, they will not adopt it. The natural tendency will be to resist that. And these are not one set of people. Business is one side, IT is one side, your CDO teams are on one side, and then there are pockets of different personas within this team. There is data engineers that do a thing from a particular mindset. There are analysts. There are nowadays AI and platform engineers who have a different mindset. There are these stewards, data owners, business analysts, and it's a wide spectrum all over the place. And you are asking this, multiple personas to come together on one common tool and start using it in one common way, by the way, which these people are not used to do that. So there is naturally going to be that, and that is where the problem, I think, with the technology adoption. And many companies, which you mentioned, that they start with this tooling part without doing a comprehensive exercise of fitment, whether that tool is really fit for their environment. And by fitment, we have to evaluate. I do it, for a lot of clients, that we evaluate these things, which I mentioned. What are those different users of your role? How do they perceive data? What is their day-to-day working looking like? Can it be transformed in the tool? Secondly, does your infrastructure really support that tool? Nowadays, everything is on cloud, but still there are a ton of legacy applications all in all organizations. Can your tool really integrate with it, or it's going to be hell lot of integration and manual operations into that? Uh, does is the tool kind of, is the vendor ready to come on board and train your people, provide that education, or is it only going to know, take the tool, and if you want any professional services, pay 500,000 extra, kind of a thing. So those discussions, then, once you take the tool, then you realize, oh no, there are so many things that we have to take care, and that's where I think the adoption then, goes to the bottom.
Yeah, I agree, and I remember, Tom Redmond as the pioneer of that whole data quality notion.
Yeah,
He says that data quality in itself is not a technical problem; it's usually a management problem. Yeah, it's
exactly.
basically in a way that organizations which we have today never been designed for working with data. What you said, it's horizontal. You need the
Yes.
multiple teams to come together and to start jointly work and align and find these right balances of role and responsibilities and so on. So taking this now to the people side, yeah, so where you started, what's your view on this? Like what makes organizations successful from that, people side of the house, so how should we set up ideally? Maybe we are over idealistic, but like what would be that next to ideal setup of, people roles and organization of data within a company?
Yeah, that's a good point, and I would just like to extend on what Tom also mentioned. I had a very good discussion with him a few weeks ago on the same point. That exactly why people kind of are resistant or hesitant to adopt certain responsibilities, business side folks especially, on the data side, is because fundamentally it ties back to the human psychology. You need to understand that most of the business leaders, they do not come from traditional IT computer kind of a degree or an education. They are some specialists. Someone is a finance finance degree with a finance, specialism. Some is coming from chemical background, some is coming from other, and then they have, kind of succeeded in their roles and grown as the, business leaders for that unit. They do not necessarily come from an IT or a technology background. So when you go to them and you talk in the language of databases and tables and schemas and lineage and federated governance and computational governance, obviously any human, it is going to be resisting to those kind of words. That is not their world. That is not what they understand on a day-to-day basis. And similarly, that this problem applies to data governance, even data quality, largely to data quality, that, whenever we try to say that, business, you should take the ownership, you should, assign your data owners or data stewards to do metadata management, data quality, they said, sorry, we don't know what this is. Maybe we'll hire some data steward and let them do. But the data steward then usually, is kind of a single person who runs around, who has some data expertise, but that person is also not getting any help from the business side, because they do not kind of, relate to what
Right.
they are doing it only because they have been mandated by the CDO organization or by the larger leadership forum that, this is how you have to operate. So I think that is the fundamental problem. You can define the roles in any way you want. You can rename, I know there are some standard industry terms of data owner, data. So you can I have heard data custodians and data guardians. It's everywhere. So the naming doesn't matter. What matters is the responsibility part. What responsibilities or expectations do you really have, and whether those are the right folks? I have been in client engagements where people have told me that, Gaurav, one morning I woke up and I got an email that, I am the data owner for this domain from today. And I am like, okay, wow, but why and what do I need to do? And they have given me some policy document which is almost 100 pages, and I have to read it, understand it, and, start managing the data within my organization or taking the ownership. And I don't even know, there are thousands of people using my data. How am I going to track all of this? I don't know how to do this. So there is a kind of, fundamentally it's a process driven challenge as well. Before we go on and say that, you as a person take this responsibility, we have to clearly, the data governance team or the CDO team has to clearly define what that means for that person. How are
Mhm.
they going to actually enable it? It's not possible to do all the things from day one. So what is the priority? What is the minimum expectation that they can fulfill in the first 3 months, in the next 3 months, and then take it, or gradually scale it? So I always say that data quality, is not a one leap kind of a thing that you start it today and tomorrow you have it across the organization. That realization comes in stages. That, okay, why I'm doing data quality, why I'm being asked to do data quality as a business leader, I don't care. To, okay, there are some problems, okay, maybe I need to look, oh, this is the kind of impact, okay, let me invest some time. To the last stage, yes, I want to invest and I want to do because it's helping me drive so much revenue. So it's kind of, that graph, and I have it in the book, but in a visual format.
So you've touched on this a little bit, and I really want maybe to go one step deeper. Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes,
convincing business leaders that data actually matters, and even more, the quality of the data matters. And so, all these consequences which comes afterwards, like, hey, you are the main owner, and we will be working with you, and you need to do this, and and whatsoever, and we need to set some collaborations. A lot of activity. How do you what's your kind of tips and tricks, as being in this role for a while and seeing different companies, like what really works when you're trying to position why? Yeah, like why data quality
exactly.
matters, and be to position it not on that, how to say, generic agreement, like, yeah, it matters, yeah, okay, good.
Yes.
But kind of the position, like, yes, it matters, and what is what we're gonna do next week to improve it,
Yes, yes. Where
right?
is the
So
proof? Yeah,
exactly, how do you get
yeah.
that notion of people realizing this and committing, their time, their resources, their energy to deal with the data. Like if you can share maybe, several tricks and tips which works across different organizations.
Yeah, that's a good question. And I myself, a few years ago was thinking a lot around, okay, how do we really solve this challenge? Yes, explaining to the business, the importance of data quality in theoretical world. Nobody is going to say no to your face. They say, yeah, yeah, we understand, but we have other priorities, so let's come back next quarter, kind of a thing. And I found out, it's practically possible to do or showcase that with some examples, some very simple tricks. And one of them, in the data quality world is the data quality dashboard. And I used to work mostly as a mediator between business and IT in a lot of client engagements. The IT used to implement certain data quality checks, create some data quality dashboards, and that was the normal route. But it's not working. The business still struggle to understand the why part. And then I thought, you know if you look back, 10 years, like 10, 12 years ago, I started in this data quality space. But even further to that, if you look at the data quality dashboard 10 years ago versus today, it's still the same. It still will show you number of data quality rules passed, number of rules failed,
Mm.
some graphs around how many issues were fixed 3 months versus today, active open issues, and those kind of, it's still, you open it now, you open your data quality dashboard in any organization, and I guarantee you it will be the same thing. When you take this dashboard to a business leader and say that, for finance, for example, finance domain, there were 100 rules, 70% have failed. And business said, okay, then what?
What's that?
Why? Okay,
Yeah.
what? I don't know. Okay, it fix, go and fix it. If it's issue, go and fix it. Go to source or go to anyone. Why are coming to me? I don't care. I have some other work to do. And that made me realize, that communication challenge or that language challenge, how we can translate it. And I wish I could have shown you, but it's in the book with an example as well. Uh, if you translate the same dashboard in a way that is more relevant to the business, and it's very simple, it's not that difficult. I did it for many clients. So we had this number of rules passed versus failed kind of dashboard. I converted into a KPI dashboard, and I
Mm.
said that, instead of, okay, 70% of the rules are failing, I called it as, for example, and this is applicable on that dimensions thing also. I God knows what those dimensions are, since how many years: accuracy, cleanliness, and timely, same. And you go in any organization, you will find people kind of, still googling the difference between accuracy and validity, and what these dimensions really are, and what does it mean. It's still happening because we have been trying to adopt a certain approach or a certain template that was created years ago, without understanding how it can be fit for our use, and that is creating more of the problem. So when I was referring to this dashboard example, what I did was, now instead of saying that your 70% of your say rules are failing, I converted that into a positive note, saying that, you know you only have 30% decision accuracy within your finance data. 30%, and I showed it in the dashboard that your decision accuracy is 30%. And I even got to a level detail, and I said that because of this 30% decision accuracy, here are the KPIs that are impacted. Those KPIs are your financial forecast accuracy. Here is your some reimbursement, time to reimbursement. All of these KPIs are impacted because of this 70% failure. And I kind of added some more description in a separate link around how it is impacting. And all of this knowledge I gathered simply by talking with business, understanding their business process. I asked them questions that, tomorrow, if your particular financial supplier is not paid on time, what will be the impact? And they easily say that yes, if we don't do that in 10 days of time, they'll start adding us interest and fines on top of that, and so on. And that is the impact. That's how you translate. And I showed that dashboard to the same business person, saying that you have only 30% decision accuracy. The moment that person saw that dashboard, there was a curiousness. I will not say it was an immediate adoption, but there was curiousness in his eyes. And he said, okay, so you are saying that somewhere the decisions that we are making based on reports or anything, there is a very low confidence in. I said yes, and he said okay, then what is the likely impact? That is, which business processes it's going to likely impact? And I said that yes, it's going to impact your the forecasting thing, which you do biannually, or it's going to have an impact on the expenses reimbursements for your employees. And then they start to understand, and then they realize that okay, yes, this looks like something which needs our attention. And then they come on board and then say, okay, Gaurav, what can we do to help you solve the issues? They will not say that okay, now give us the issues and we solve it. That's not going to happen. They'll say, okay, what can we do? Where can we help? And then you come on board and you say, you know what, yes, there are issues, some issues at the source. Maybe there is a resource gap, maybe there is something happening. Can you help us in those communication? Can you come to that meeting? And then that person comes on board. He said, okay, let's go to the source person. Let's change this data collection method, the process. Let's alter that. Let's give it a timeline. And that's how you work in coordination, in collaboration, and then you solve those issues. Rather than one time fixes, you solve it from the root. Everything nowadays I'm seeing on LinkedIn and everywhere, shift left. But what does that mean? This is what it means, and you have to take everyone on a journey towards that.
Yeah, I agree. I think this language and this like really finding what truly means for people. This is the most convincing. So you can create a business case which is very deeply researched and formulated, but if it doesn't tweaks people interest or like even an emotional reaction,
Exactly.
that won't work. I recall back in my history in Microsoft, we moved a very significant MDM project forward by a very simple diagram. We just pick up one customer, which was very well known in Redmond area, major customer of the Microsoft, a major company, and we simply show how this customer data looks like in the system. Right?
Exactly.
It was scattered across, and we say, in the last 30 days, one sale was on that level, two sales were here, support was sold on this entity, and all that type of thing. And look, and we show it just, to the people, like without any pressure, to do anything. We just show it, like, hey, this is how we work today, right? And this is how the customer look like.
Exactly.
And we invited, salespeople in this forum and so on, and they are looking on this and it's like, what the heck is that? This is not that kind of, like, what did you did with structure? This is not like how we work with that customer. I say, no, that's exactly how the customer data looks like in our systems. Yeah, you just,
exactly.
You see your partial fragmented view because you only enter here or you only enter here. But when we take this and we present it now to you how it looks in a, overall, that's what it is. And there's like,
Yes.
oh, no, we should fix it. We should fix it quickly. So there was type of reaction, so reaction
And
leads you
completely.
to building up.
Completely agree. And that's why, especially in the financial industry or any industry where it's like a retail, where there are a lot of customers, this is the best that I always say to my, peers and clients as well. The best place to look for data quality issues is in your customer feedback forms. Go over there and see the kind of feedback and reviews they have posted about your service, about your product, and you will find where these issues are coming up again and again. Is it coming from your web application, from your banking, kind of system? And you will find that how customers are kind of, getting kind of duplicate emails again and again, how they are kind of being asked to fill in the same information 10 different times in 10 different, places, this, why, even after doing everything, they are not getting any sort of communication back from your end. These are your fundamental quality problems arising because somewhere that data that being entered by your customers or in your process is not getting triaged to the right people at the right time. Once you start, connecting these dots, like which you also mentioned, that's when you start seeing the impact.
Hmm. Yeah, and I agree absolutely. So, you know, let's kind of transition a little bit. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
obviously, you had a lot of experience across different industries, as you say. You've seen different things. So, I guess as every smart person, at some point of time, we come to realization like, well, we have a lot of experience. We would like this experience to be, more structured, more shareable, maybe more known upfront to the others because we
Hmm.
believe it's
Hmm.
valuable.
Yeah.
And, many people at that point, they start to think about writing a book. However, the tricky question in 2025 would be, is it still relevant? Like we have AI, which knows everything about everything.
Yeah.
So what's the point?
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, the reason for starting this book was also the larger data community only, and I say it very confidently that the book that I have written is not my book, it's our book, like it's everyone, because whatever I have captured is the feedback, is the comments, is the suggestions that I have been hearing across all these data peers in the industry, clients and everyone. So for me personally, I started writing things quite early. I think in 6 7 years ago I love writing. I started writing. I started posting on LinkedIn 3 4 years ago, and then I started realizing uh, there were so many good ideas, so many good suggestions that were coming from people as part of reactions to my post. We went into so many, I went into one-on-one discussions with so many people. I went to conferences, talked with people, and I realized that yes, there is so much knowledge available externally that personally has helped me grow as a consultant quite a lot in my career. And that's where I think last year somewhere I thought that I already have all of this information collected from from my interactions on, and my biggest source of this book knowledge was my LinkedIn posts and the comments that in the comment section of that post. I went through them. I kind of gathered all that information, and then I thought let's kind of give it in a structured way. And to answer your question that why it is relevant in 2025 as well, what I realized is in the literature world, especially around this topic of data quality, there are quite a lot of books around how to do data quality. You can find it, many books are there. Even if you go and ask ChatGPT, they will tell you how to do data quality, but there is not enough literature available around uh, who should be doing data quality and why should they be doing data quality. So that was my thought process, firstly, that this perspective around data quality has not been explored. So let me kind of, and to be frank, I asked ChatGPT the same questions, and the responses were all standard. Data owners should do this, data stewards should do this, and this and that, which you will always find in the books on how to do data quality. So this gap was a major missing, and the examples, like I mentioned, the dashboard thing and all those, you will not find anywhere, even in the Chat GPT as well. So I wanted to share these ideas, whatever I learned, in order to bring this knowledge to the entire data quality community, and also to get more feedback, to get more response around. Okay, maybe this also works. You can do this. That helps me, selflessly. That helps me in my day-to-day work as a consultant, the more feedback, and I can similarly contribute to the community and to the larger mission that we have. So that is my idea.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds interesting. And when we started our discussion, you several times mentioned like, "Hey, I have this in the book. I have this in the book." So I have a feel, like it might go to a direction where next customer you are meeting, you first give a book and say, "Hey, read this through," and I will come 2 weeks later and then we talk because
And no,
there
no,
is.
no. I get that because in every customer discussion, I usually go with a kind of a presentation, a summarized presentation of the book, and then followed by it. That helps usually.
Absolutely. So now the book itself, you explained, the why and like what was the driving force, and I truly,
Hmm.
when you were speaking, I was recalling, so many people interacted, in your posts, and they, gave all kind of different opinions. That
Yes.
was very interesting always to read, like what people says about this. You choose, the angle of the data quality besides, why and what. You choose also return on investment, right? So
Hmm.
this ROI aspect, which is interesting one. I mean, it goes down to the value of the data, and
Exactly.
there wasn't so many, places where it was kind of research. So we know there was a little bit of effort, I think 10 or 15 years ago, to deep dive, like, is data, kind of a valuable asset? Yeah, can we put a certain value behind the data? And I personally got curious about this as well several years back, and even registered, the domains for myself, data value. And now when I see, you are picking up this almost like on a research grade approach. What really took you towards that ROI? It's a very difficult, theme, like even addressing what you said, like what and why doesn't necessarily, pushes you to go such a hard
Mm.
level, like what's the return on investment? So why this ROI appeared as a
No,
leading theme?
that's a good question. And I give credit to Steve, who is my publisher, for that as well. To be honest, when I started writing the book, I didn't had the entire, the word ROI in my mind. My main focus was to how we can solve this communication related challenge between the
Yeah.
different personas, producers, consumers, transformers of the data, what basically all the engineering teams and all. How do we solve this challenge around? How can we make them come to a common goal around data quality? Why they should be doing it, and what business outcomes they should be achieving, and so on. And I was writing in that way. And the book was also, there is also this entire Newton's laws thing, which I can
Mhm.
share on why that came up discussion. So my focus was more or less on those things. But when Steve read the first draft of the book, he also got curious, and he said, Gaurav, but you're talking about solving this communication gap, which has impact directly on the efficiency. It has impact on the human connection and collaboration among teams. It has impact on how the technology is being perceived or used within an organization. It has an overall layer around its education. How do you drive education literacy program within our? Don't you think it's adding a kind of a tangible return on investment? If you do these things,
Mm.
there is a tangible return on investment that any organization can get out of it. And I liked his perspective. I said, yeah, that's a way of looking at it. If we kind of cumulatively take it and stitch the pieces together, yes, it can actually result into those things. And that's how that data quality ROI title kind of came up. So it's more of Steve's credit than me. But yes, then I kind of effectively changed some of the chapters, the messaging around it, and tried to stitch it together, eventually also adding points on the AI front, like AI for data quality versus data quality for AI. And then gradually saying that if all of these parameters are kind of not in entirety, but if you try to do even the basics of this thing, there is a tangible return on investment when it comes to data quality. That return on investment is on your business outcomes, on the efficiency, on how your teams perceive and value data, how your teams interact with data. Every parameter it kind of touches. So that's the core thing.
And speaking of this, like top three ROIs from data, what would you say?
Yeah. So I'll talk most specifically on the data quality. So data quality, most specifically, top three ROIs. It solves your one-on-one coffee siloed discussions that's happening all over the organizations. It brings everyone on the same table on together to solve towards a common challenge. So there is a huge boost on your time saving or efficient time, basically, that is
Mhm.
wasted across all the second is on the efficiency. If as a team these different personas are working or are in sync with what they are doing, it accelerates your work at least by 2x if not 4x in my view. So that is and the third is obviously the monetary value of it. By doing all of these things, I have still organizations, and I shouldn't say it because it's against my line of business, but there are there are companies who are investing millions and millions of dollars externally to understand, even for small, I have seen $1 million projects being invested to just cleanse data at some source, or help to solve this problem. That is very micro focused, and forget, and you go and that project is done. But if you have this kind of a spectrum of understanding on different stakeholders, their natural resistance, the human psychology and everything, then you gradually think from that perspective. It saves your money, it saves you time, and it accelerates your work. So that's the overall ROI thing.
It sounds very interesting because it speaks to the to the values which are common in the organization. So it's really nothing what would be so much data specific, but it's where data is acting as that meaning to raise the efficiency, to connect the organization, so foster that opportunity with the data. And if it's measurable, then it's a perfect, right?
Exactly. And
Um,
and I also talked about the overall fit for purpose. I forgot that, but that is entire also kind of, one of the core aspect which I have touched around. That when we talk about a value or an ROI, y- doing it on 100% of your data estate is not possible. It's not feasible. So it has to be on that fit for purpose. So I always say that whether it's data governance, data quality, this should not be a siloed initiative within itself, that the data quality team is there and they're doing something on their own. Each of this initiative has to tie back to the business values and the business outcomes that your organization are trying to pursue. When these two work together, then the all the other things that we just spoke of naturally gravitate around it.
so one thing which I absolutely want to bring, because I was always curious on this, right? And even then I saw a preview from your side about the upcoming book. And well, by the way, it's still here.
Yes, thank you.
Um, you know, it took me really to believe and kind of get the book through and open it. And one of the first things which you look through, and you see this in different chapters, and you look on the name of the chapters, and then these Newton laws coming through.
Newt.
And you know, I knew it from the preview, but I still kind of couldn't fully believe, like, is this a pilot, to the data quality? And then when I got to the actual book, I still look through, like, is this guy still really talking, from his perspective, on the data? So this is one of the most unusual, this is what you will not find in ChatGPT, like, ever.
Exactly.
How did this came
So
through? Like, tell me the story behind this. Like, I think
yes,
it's phenomenal.
exactly. So actually, when I started writing the things, and I started putting out different chapters, I realized that, my fundamental thing was very clear that, I don't want this to be a theoretical kind of a book, or kind of, purely advisory kind of a thing, or too technical kind of a book, because most books on this topic are either too technical, focusing
Mhm.
on, code and all those, which, it's not relevant for majority of the audience. So I wanted this book is easy to read, easy to understand, and anyone that is working with the data, be it business side, IT side, data governance team side, anyone, from a simple analyst to a chief executive or chief data officer, they could they can read it on a flight or anyway, and just, take any one chapter of the book, and even if they read it, they can understand the message. It's not necessary that they should have read all the way from the start to come also. So that was my fundamental motive behind, writing the book. And I struggled quite a bit. There was a writer's block, what we call it, when, for quite a few time around how do I do it, how do I structure it. uh, and luckily, you can say that I had Netflix on. There was some documentary going on Newton that day. I was watching, just, and that thought came up, and I said, yeah, maybe Newton can help me in that, and I thought that Newton's laws are applicable in the physical world, but there are no laws that are applicable in the data world. Can we create something, or maybe I can, start some of them, because that was the hook, basically, which I wanted to give the readers to come back to the book. So that's why I said, okay, let me try to, do that laws. So Newton's laws, there were very simple three laws that, were very easy to understand. We have learned, everyone has, little bit of understanding on that, and I just translated those laws into the data laws, for data quality laws, to be specific. And I did it in a way that, it kind of resonated, and then I built the entire chapter, or I kind of segregated my chapters based on those laws. And eventually then I had a final law which, says that if you do things in a particular, all of the three laws, in if you follow those laws, it will naturally create a pull tendency for your business towards data quality, rather than a push tendency that we usually have, kind of a thing. So that was my idea. I hope it worked.
It worked. At least I firmly believe it worked. And it created, that uniqueness, spin, while being very practical, So this is
Yeah.
why I think this authenticity and, the human creation side, it still so much matters, right? Because you
Yes,
made that
exactly.
connection, which was never existed before, right? And so that was also very easy, I think, to people to read through. All right. No conversation about the data in 2025 should be without mentioning AI.
Yeah.
And let me start maybe from slightly broader perspective. In the book and across the industry today, I think many data professionals realizes that there are AI capabilities which could help, to improve the data quality, improve the data, and in return, also that data which was improved, then it serves also the better, capabilities of AI as such. So it's very interesting, kind of a closed loop. But when you think about data as such, the data which we have, as a companies, as a businesses, as even humans ourselves, AI made a spin into that direction by generating a lot of new data, which was never,
Hmm.
existed in such a way. And if you look, today in 2025, when we know, different capabilities of AI, but we also see, a lot of, things going into producing more and more data with AI. What's your take on this? Like, is AI helping us in general to get better with the data and with ROI of data, or is this actually creating a lot of mess and a lot of, I don't know, unmanageable, unneeded data, which somehow we will need to live with, right? So every
Yeah, yeah.
document, everything which is getting generated right now with AI, it has some space, right? It has some
Mm,
trace also of being created and maybe being managed afterwards in the companies, right? So the things which were naturally taking time to produce or had a clear moment of capturing the data on systems of records and so on. So now we see, like, forget it. What you generate on an entry point in a CRM is nothing comparable with how much AI generates you at the end of that food chain, right? So what's your take on this? Like, are we drowning in a data challenges, or are we really getting some benefits out of AI?
yeah, I think I kind of look it from a fundamental level into two categories, which is data quality for AI versus AI for data quality. On the data quality for AI, which you also correctly mentioned, AI is generating so many data in so many different forms for us. How do we kind of ensure that it is correct, it is reduced of bias and all of those kind of hallucinations and everything? That is a very big problem, and especially now the unstructured data also getting into picture. That problem has grown manifold. Organizations are not ready even for the full-fledged data quality on structured data. Now you have added unstructured data
Mhm.
on that, and that's why you will see even today most of the organizations, all of these AI initiatives are internally focused. Like AI for they are doing to enhance their software engineering practices. They are doing AI for some internal applications. They are not using AI to go externally, like for example to get some offerings or work with the data and offer it to their customers or client. They are not doing it because their internal data is not ready in the way that they should go. There are regulatory kind of restrictions or demands from a regulation perspective that they need to adhere to if they want to go externally with their AI outcomes. So that's why most companies will focus on how can we leverage AI to solve our day-to-day work, for PPT creations and chat co-pilots and chat GPTs for simple analysis. That's the extent of it. And that's also so if you want to do realistically, if you want to look what for data quality for AI perspective, then it needs to ensure that wherever these AI outcomes are generated, there are security gates or quality gates at each of those checkpoints to check for all of these things. What that we mentioned, the bias, the whether the data is actually making sense. We saw the recent case of a major consulting firm being fined, by a government. If you don't have this kind of checks in place before you kind of publish your AI outcomes or take your AI outcomes externally, such sort of things are bound to happen. So I think that is essential. And if you look on the other hand side, AI for data quality, I think there is a massive scope. How we are doing data quality today in organizations, in many organizations, irrespective of the tools, there is a lot of manual process around it. In the rule capturing to the rule implementation, and after, like, once the issue has been found, which we talked about, dashboarding, the communication, the triage management, it's a way lot manual today in most organizations. I think AI can play a very good role in that segment, in accelerating your data quality, data governance management within your organization completely. That is where I see the most value at this moment from an AI perspective.
And we are still not doing this. I mean, like what you said, I think was a good call to action in terms of, yes, creating those control points, those kind of gates of validating what was created by AI. But do you see this kind of broadly being implemented across the organizations? I was reflecting while you're speaking, and I haven't seen it much. Like people maybe don't see this as a major risk, or what's your point? What's your take on this? It's what you said. I think it's very right and it's very resonative, and we see this market examples where things, if not get controlled and validated very quickly, it becomes a damage, for a company's reputations and so on. But we still don't see companies doing this.
Yeah, because there can be two reasons. A, the companies are still trying to figure out what kind of, those we talked, everyone talks about the foundation that is necessary to build your AI. What does that really mean? What is the level of maturity that company has when it comes to end-to-end data management? Do they have already some sort of things working well? What kind of investments do they need? What kind of resourcing do they need? How can they manage and scale it over the time? I think organizations are still trying to understand that. That's why I said that, when taking AI externally, there are a lot of investment, lot of thinking that has been going on. Internally, it doesn't matter. You take, like, you license these AI LLMs and everything, and they are kind of modeled only for that internal use, or at least they say so, that that the models won't be trained on the data that we upload in them. So many organizations, in most organizations, you will have Gemini, Chat GPT open for their employees to do analysis. AI in software engineering is doing big things. People have started using a lot of this Claude and Anthropic and everything to kind of generate codes which are testing test programs and everything, but it's all internal at this moment.
Right. But then thinking through this, and I really totally agree with you on this space. We also had a great example across Data Masterclass, members where company applied this AI driven, data augmentation connections, and eventually the state of data improved significantly. Yeah. They also proved by doing this work that data quality super matters for them, because the more you open and include your own data of the company data being available, through internal LLMs, the more you actually get either super precise and tangible results out of this, or you get hallucinations, coming out of those
Exactly.
AI
Exactly.
capabilities because your data just doesn't fit. It's not connected enough and so on. But the trend, which is still very visible, is AI helping to fix the data, to augment it,
Yes.
to create
Yes.
more connections.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
here's the question then. So, what's your view on the role of data professional, let's say in 3 years from now, right? If we see that AI is so helpful on, fixing our structured data, and to a certain extent also on the structured data, but mostly structured, what we're gonna do in 3 years? All the data will be fixed. Data quality will be a decent memory. Like, hey, yeah, years back, remember, in '70s and in '80s, we had a data quality problem. Not anymore because AI fixed everything.
And I heard similar things, even 10 years ago when these fancy tools were launched, that now we have a tool for data quality, data governance. We don't need people to do that. Tool will do everything. But here are we, like, 10 years later, still trying to sort that mess. So I think with AI as well, like I said, AI will certainly help in accelerating the overall data quality, data governance, or data management in general, in terms of the processes part. And that's why in the start I mentioned that processes part, many organizations are becoming a bit mature, because there is a reason that AI is also helping them, like how you should do data governance, what kind of processes you should have. So yes, definitely in that area AI will accelerate a lot of things, but there will always, as long as it's not a two people company, there will always be a people related challenge in all organizations. And solving this, no AI can help you, because different peoples exist on a different scale. Their mindset differs from person to person, from geography to geography. uh, but the data underlying the data is more or less the same. So these people are kind of using that data from a different perspective, or managing that data from a different mindset. And that is always going to be a challenge, for which these professionals, like especially the data governance, data quality, data strategist, will always be relevant in my view. Or at least I hope so, that they will be relevant. And similarly, you don't know that it's also being said that a lot of data engineering capabilities will be automated, but then we will move to something next. Now this all AI platform engineers and AI related infrastructure, there are infrastructure related challenges which AI won't solve. So all of these things will gradually kind of move into that zone, I think.
So the future is bright.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, I think it's a kind of a good logical end of our conversation.
Yes.
Maybe something at the very end. Some reflection from your side to finish our wonderful session today.
Yes. No, firstly, thank you for giving me this opportunity on Data Masterclass. I've learned a lot with some of these sessions. I've watched it at the Data Masterclass. You folks are doing a really good job. And from my end, I think we discussed on some very good points today. This topic of data governance, data quality, I'm extremely passionate. So if there are any questions, anything you or your viewers want to kind of ask me, I'm available on LinkedIn. Just ping me, and I'm happy to have a talk. Thank you again, Alex.
Thank you, Gaurav. I can only add that you are extremely collaborative person. I know it myself as I was
Thank you.
approaching you some time back, and we've been very open in
Yes.
doing some work together. So thank you for the time today. It was wonderful to host you. And again, one more time, congratulations with the very unique and very beautiful book about
Thank
the
you very
data and data
much.
quality. So that's a massive thing, in our life.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so
Thank
much.
you, Alex. Thank you. Bye.
Data Masterclass, where great data journeys begin.